Welcome, everyone. My name is Jill Goff, and I have Craig Gardner on as well to help run the meeting. Our topic today is Winboard 2 to WATnet, going over what you need to know about data conversion. We have a large group, so please remain muted. I'll hold a Q&A at the end of the presentation, at which time I will read questions from the chat and call on people who indicate they have a question. With that, let's get started. So a general overview, Winboard 2 is our legacy software. It's what's been used historically in the past. It reached an end of life at the end of 2019. It is a Sybase database, which is a code-based database. We migrated to a SQL database, which is a table-based database structure for a few reasons. Number one, we learned that the Sybase would not receive as much of the Microsoft support, as well as the fact that it's easier for user customization options. So we are using the WATnet suite, which is the SQL database. It has tier-based customization options, which we'll go over briefly. But today, want to go over the conversion process, what is involved in a full data conversion, and if there is no full data conversion, what is the options for other services. If everyone can remain muted, that would help. Okay, so your conversion, a full data conversion includes migration of your existing legacy meter data. So your meter numbers with their form, their base, manufacturer, all the things that go with the meter data. Your meter test data is migrated as well. All your test dates, readings, comments, everything that goes with that. Your test sequences that are set up in your legacy system would be migrated over into WATnet, along with your validation tables, which are your dropdowns. Your meter lookup codes and barcode structures, so if you have any of those defined for your meters in legacy, it will come over as well. Your test limits, including your weighted average and balance settings. Your existing export structure, so if you have your test going to a flat file, that will come over or be brought over. Your data view layout, which is your test screen, that will be replicated, and we'll go into that a little bit further. And then if you have any manufacturer file import structures defined, we will also migrate those. During the data conversion, it's a very collaborative process. We retrieve the WECO TB, which is the name of the database for your WECO legacy, from the PC, and we load it and go through it. And then we work with you and answer any questions you have, but primarily it's an opportunity for us to take a look at your data. Make sure that there are no bad meter numbers. And what I say by bad meter numbers is we've seen meter numbers that were all commas, which we know is probably not an actual number, or all zeros. So we go through that and we help you determine what is valid data and what isn't. Data mismatches, where you have an obvious entry in a field that doesn't go there. So if you have a case of H that has initials in it, or a voltage that says 2.5, when that's probably your amps. So we point out those things and we help get that cleaned up so you can start on a really clean playing field. And then any formatting, a lot of times you're going to see either tester IDs or meter types that might be the same meter type, but their spelling is different, or you can have a capital or a dash or a space. And what we do is we try to help bring those into one category. And oftentimes we will then use a dropdown to help keep those clean in the future. If you have any minor changes to your existing data view, that test screen, we can go through that as well, and we'll go a little further into it in the next screens. But as I said, it's a collaborative effort, and we want you to be able to have that customization set up as you would want it. All right, so going to the next screen. So your full data conversion, as I said, it's your equipment, your test, all your settings. There are additional services if you don't want your actual data to come over and possibly you just want the setup to come over. We do have configuration services like a data view configuration service that will allow you to customize that layout, rename fields, add fields, make them drop downs, have some of the fields have an initial value to start or retain the previous test value. A lot of times, WATNet Basic is a non-configurable data view. So if you go to a WATNet Basic, there is a default layout, and I'll show you what that looks like. If there are any changes you want to do to that, this is that configuration service that we can do that. Same thing with export configurations. WATNet Basic has a set export configuration. So if you need something specific, we can do a configuration service for you as well. So looking a little bit as your nameplate and sequences, we're going to focus right now on your sequences. And so you start with your lookup codes. Up here at the top is your legacy view, and down below is the WATNet view. Your lookup code, form, base, case of H, volts, and amps are all still defined, but they're in one section here in WATNet. And then your sequence information, based on the sequence that you select, you can select your optics, your service, whether it's a reverse power, and your limits in here as well. So side by side, the top is legacy, and the bottom is your default WATNet data view. And this is where, if you want to change any of this default data view, we can discuss it at that time. But your meter number still comes over. Your serial number comes over. Your AMI ID is still there. Manufacturer. Your test code. Your meter type. Your form and base is populated at test start. Same thing with your case of H, your test volts, and your test amps. Your tester ID. Your WECO serial number. Your readings come over in the tab off to the right. There's 3 spots for trouble codes, as there was before. You could make more in the configuration. Your comments. Additionally, we have added test location, and that would be shop or field, where it could be determined. If you have multiple test shop locations, you could then use north, south, east, and west, or the like. So this is what you get with WATNet. That is your data view. So as you can see, manufacturer and meter type are currently drop-downs. You can make any of these fields a drop-down or not. If your manufacturer, you just want to be a manual entry, you can. We can configure it to be a drop-down with a manual entry option. Some people have tester ID do that, where you have a tester ID drop-down, but you also have folks who may be coming in periodically or coming through on light duty or something that may want to just have them add their initials in. That's an option as well. As I mentioned too, that default WATNet export structure. If you have an export structure that is anything other than the default, this is where we could do the export structure configuration. for you. And WATNet Basic, as I said, comes with a set default. WATNet Express Limited and Plus has editable export structures, and some just want us to make that all for them. It's really a matter of preference. So we also have your RSM and the support team that can answer any questions. If you think of something after today, we can come out, we can train you on site. We can do it remotely. We can train you to do these configurations internally as far as setting up your data view in WATNet Express Limited and Plus. In WATNet Basic, again, that is that set data view. If you're interested in any of these or have any questions about that after this session, be sure to let us know or contact your RSM for more information. So I know I went kind of fast, and I see that I already have one question, but I'd like to now begin taking questions. If you would please use the chat feature to pose your question or ask to be called on. You can also use the raise hand button next to your name at the top of the attendees list. I'll read the questions that are submitted or call on you to ask your question out loud. The first question was, I mentioned that any field can be a drop-down. Is this in WATNet Basic as well in other versions? Yes, it is in WATNet Express, and Limited and Plus allows you to make those changes yourself. Those are it's a customizable data view, so you can go in and make those changes. In WATNet Basic, they are set fields. So if it is a set field in WATNet Basic, and I'll go back here to the screen that I was referring to. In WATNet Basic, your manufacturer, your meter type, test location, reason, ID, and trouble codes are all standard drop-down fields. If you want to change those, edit those, remove those, make, if say you want class to be in here, you could put class in there, you could make class a drop-down. These are all the configuration ideas that we can do with you. And this is the time to do it when you do the configuration. When you're in WATNet Basic, we do this one configuration for you, and but then there's no additional configuration ability. In Express, you can make these drop-downs on your own as time goes on. You can add fields as time goes on as well. Good question. Thanks, John. Do we have any other questions? If it's a long one, just say me and I'll call on you. You guys are making this too easy on me. Okay, we've got, yes, John, test volts, test amps, case of H can also be a drop down. And the thing with those, with the form base, case of H, volts, and amps is when you have this top nameplate section populated, when you click start, it is going to populate these fields down below. So the only time you would really need the drop down is if you were doing any sort of manual entry in the application itself. I have seen folks do this though, just to make it clean so no one can put something that's different in that field. The date will show up in the test window. When you retrieve your tests, there will be a little drop down where you can select it by date. Kim, you mentioned a basic export configuration. Is there a document that shows what that is? Yes, so Kim, I'm going to go right here. Our basic export configuration is exactly what the default is in Legacy. And Kim, I invite you, if you want to send us an email, I'll put our email address up at the end. If you would email me what your current export structure looks like, we can help you determine whether or not that's something that's going to fit in here or not. But essentially, it's 46 lines, and these are the fields that are in there and the configurations. Okay, and actually, Kim, we actually have your data file, so disregard that last request. Thank you very much. We will take a look at that and let you know. We have another question, pallet ID number. Yes, you can add any field into the data view. The specific question was, can you add a 4-digit number for the pallet? Yes and no, and Danny, that's probably something we can talk about a little more specifically, depending on how functional number has to be as far as your data. Is that something that's permanent to the meter, or is it a static? Are you looking for more of a meter asset management tool? In that case, we're probably going to get a little more specific. And so, Danny, I have your information. I will reach out to you privately, and we'll discuss this a little more specifically. But if there's a field you want to track, you can add it to your data view. You can add it to the common result data. Essentially, up here in the top, in the data view section, is your meter data. Anything that's semi-permanent to your meter, your manufacturer, form, base, case of H, class, meter type, things like that. The things that can change from test to test are these common result data. So pallet may or may not fall directly into one or the other specifically, so we would need to specifically get an idea of what you want. So Danny, thank you. I will. And the date, again, the date will show up. It did have in the old legacy version the test date and time. That is a part of your test sequence, and so it will be in your test data specifically, rather than in your nameplate as it was before, in your data view as it was before. Rodney, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been back there working with the test boards since we set up. Because when we first set up, we couldn't, didn't have it. We couldn't find a date anywhere, and we got to build it in there where we've got a drop down to put a date in there. And
so, are you talking about a next test date?
No, we're talking about the day you tested it there on the,
that is automatically populated based on the date time of the PC, of the system that you're on.
Okay, so there.
Go ahead.
Where does that show up at?
In your test sequence? Let me pull up a section here on the actual application, and I'll show you.
This has been several years ago. We couldn't, when we imported the information into our system, we was having a hard time with the date and time of the test, which is something we need.
So I'm using an emulator. This is not an actual test. So let me.
We don't see that yet.
I'm pulling it over.
Okay.
I'm using an emulator. It's not going to be an actual test. So this is just a simulated test. And you can see I've just got a basic meter number in here. I'm just doing a quick series test. I'm not. Okay. When I save it, it becomes part of a permanent test record. In your equipment, which is where you will go to retrieve the test data.
This is all new to me here. This ain't like
this is new to pretty much everybody, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And so here is your test date right here.
Okay. Wonderful.
If there were multiple test dates, there would be multiple dates showing up here. And we can go through a quick demo with you, Rodney, afterwards, if you're interested.
Okay, like I said, it's been so long since I've even, I can't, it's been probably 2-3 years when we got it. And, I did the initial setup on it and I got turned over to MB90 and I haven't did nothing else in that for the last few years. So.
Yeah, we can schedule a quick run through with you to kind of give you a little bit more information if you need it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Good questions.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions about what we went through? Export, import, customization? I'll wait about 15 more seconds. Just send a message in the chat or raise your hand. Okay.
I got some.
Go ahead.
I was wondering if there's any reports that are already set up in there, like some standard reports.
Reports are in there. I'll quickly go over here and show you. There's the basic WATNet reports. There are standards compare reports. We have a site report and a simple site report, as well as a site test listing. Your basic WATNet reports, again, these are, this would be where you would have gone previously in your WATNet data viewer. So there's a few different options here. You can query by any of the data view fields or not. You can uncheck them. You can query by equipment number, manufacturer, date, or any combination. You can display the results in a single row, such as this, or you can have them in a step-by-step line. You can have it in a more of a report display, like a GUI. And let me see if I don't know if I have enough information in here to get one of these, so this might not look really pretty. There we go. You can do something like that. I don't have any site information in here, so it's not probably a lot we're going to be able to do. If you would let us know your contact information, if you'd like, we can go through and talk about it, see if there's something specific you're looking for, and maybe give you a little more information that way. Did this give you at all information?
Yes, appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, gladly. Don't hesitate to let us know if there's something a little more specific we can hone in on. In addition to the reports that can be exported once you retrieve them, you can export it to a flat file. You can save and manage these reports for month-to-month use. Additionally, if you want to use this equipment tab to retrieve, you can also export, and it would use that export structure that is previously defined. Okay. How do we configure the decimal places, say, case of H in the export file? It's determined whether or not you want a, let's see. So you can do a 5, you can do a decimal implied. It really depends on what format you have here. Just like this would include your decimal place. If you only wanted it without a decimal place, you would do something like this without your decimal. I mean, without the decimal in the format. If you specifically want the decimal, though, it will show up by using this configuration right here. If you wanted volts to be like 120.00, you could make that something like that. 6. These are configurable that way. The only constraint you have on the length, if you're going to do a fixed width export, is the field in the table. So if the field for meter number only allows up to, let's say, 25 characters, you can only go up to 25 in length here, or otherwise you'll get an error. So if you tried to do a meter type or a form, actually a form would be good. Form is 2. That's a hard stop. So if you try to put 5 character length as a form, it's going to give you an error. That's really the only constraint you have. You can export in CSV or fixed width. That was a good question. You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? And just to give you an idea, this is the export structure, and there's this drop-down. It's got all of your data view fields, as well as pretty much anything else you can map to. In the data view, you have 50 user configurable fields that are available, if it's not already a predefined one. And then in your test results, you have 10 user configurable fields if they're not already defined. So there's quite a robust amount of data that you can use to map here. I have yet to see anyone who's used it all. I've seen people try, but no one has yet succeeded. That is not a challenge, though. Please, no. All right, anyone else? All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending today and giving us your time. If you think of any questions, you can reach us either at our technical support email address, which is on the screen, technicalsupport@radianresearch.com. You can give them a call at 765-449-5576. Our software team can be reached by email at software@rrwe.net, and our team number is 601-933-0939. We really appreciate you allowing us to be your solutions partner. We enjoy and look forward to working with you continually in the future. Hope you all have a great day, and we hope to see you at next month's presentation. Thanks.